Welcome back to Right Answers Mostly, a podcast on what you didn't learn in history class, but you really wanted to. I'm Claire Donald.
And I'm Tess Bellomo.
You guys, we missed you so much, but it's not just us in the studio today. We have a very special guest. Kristi Cook from Sesh is joining us today. Hi, Kristi.
Hi, guys. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited.
We have a pop culture expert. I feel like I can call you that for sure.
Oh, my gosh.
I know, like, we can ask you anything, right?
Truly.
Oh, my.
Which y'all know, like, this is our bread and butter, so there's no better person to have on. Ram.
I love all things pop culture, you guys. Like, I'm so excited.
Well, we were talking about a little bit before because I was like, how did you get into all of this, if you don't mind sharing? Because we are starstruck, I feel.
We really are. Especially when you told us a little something.
Yeah.
I did tell them that I used to work at TMZ. It was a good 4 years of my life, but a bombshell a bit.
What was it like working at TMZ? What was like the
environment?
What was like the
It was
culture?
a crazy time. I mean, I feel like every day was something new because there's breaking news every day. But also I feel like I was there in such a crazy era, like the time period, because we had the whole Kanye came to the office incident. I was there for that.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wait,
that
what year was
wild.
this?
I think it was 2017 or 2018, something around that time. But when he had made like those really crazy comments on the air
Which
and
one?
was talking to the
Oh my God.
I know.
We don't have the time.
Where do we begin?
Yeah, when he came and he was like talking to the whole office and everyone was just like, okay.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Yeah.
Was it like are the phone lines just like ringing off the hook constantly?
I mean, kind of, but also no. I feel like any like tips that we would get just come through like email.
Really?
It's like there
I
was
mean,
like
I guess
someone like
that's
I think
true.
it was just
I know,
someone
but
was
whenever I think
filtering
of
it
TMZ,
through.
I think of it. It's like Wolf of Wall Street. Like,
Same.
I think of
Yeah.
everyone like up on desks, being like, "Get that photo."
It kind of was that way a bit. I mean, we just were always so on it, and everyone was scouring the internet. All I did all day long was like scroll through Instagram and like see what people were posting and
What a
send
dream
out
job.
like this
Whoa.
person was on vacation or this person posted this photo, this
Wow.
person seen with this person.
Did you have a direct line to Kris Jenner?
I wish I knew that information.
Yeah, no
Oh,
kidding.
I know.
I wish.
Were there any celebrities that would email you being like, "Please respect my privacy and stop"?
I wouldn't see it if there had been, so I don't really know about that. I mean, the email that I got was just like the communal, like everyone is seeing it in the entire
Wow.
office email, that if you saw something online and you needed like to just share it and see if somebody maybe wanted to write it up, that was like the email I had access to.
Is there a celebrity that you're like, they always are planting themselves everywhere and they are planting their own stories? Are you allowed to
question, Claire.
reveal?
Yeah, I feel like, well, I was always online, like always looking at everything on Getty, all the events,
Yeah.
and who was on Instagram the most. And there were definitely people that I would always see that I'm like, they are at everything, or they are always doing those like paparazzi photos that you just know, like they probably called them.
Yes.
Because there's like no way that they're just like out walking their dog every day.
What percentage of paparazzi photos are not like the celebrity themselves don't call the paparazzi?
I think that's like so interesting because I feel like a lot of people thought like we were the paparazzi too, so we would be getting those calls. But a lot of the time, like we do have like camera people, but a lot of the time we're like purchasing off of like these websites where paparazzi like would freelance and then sell them to these
Wow.
websites,
Hollywood,
and then
baby.
we would buy
Hollywood.
them.
History.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Herstory.
Herstory.
So how did that lead you to Spill Sesh?
I was just so in the pop culture bubble. I loved it. Ever since like before TMZ, I loved journalism. I wanted to be in the world in some capacity doing broadcast. And I just always was so into influencer culture and YouTube videos. I was like, I didn't have cable. I was always watching YouTube. And I felt like no one was talking about them like how we were talking about celebrities.
Yeah.
So then I started talking about them like on YouTube. And then eventually like that kind of just became something. And I was like, oh, I think I could just do this where I talk about influencers like by myself. Now I talk about celebrities too, but in the beginning
Wow.
it
That's
was
so
very
cool.
influencer heavy.
And you are truly the perfect person to bring on for this episode. We couldn't think of someone better because we are talking about like I feel like the influencer, the pop culture it girl of our generation,
Yes.
Paris Hilton.
Love her.
Love her.
Queen, icon, legend.
Truly. So before we get into it, what are y'all's thoughts about Paris? What do you know about Paris before we get into her history?
I think Paris is so multi-dimensional. Like there's so many different parts about her. I think off the top of their head, most people would just be like, oh, like she's like maybe a dumb blonde. But then if you sit and you actually watch her do an interview and she's not doing the voice, you're probably like, wait a minute, like who is even talking right now and what's going on? Because she's like a different person every interview that she does, depending on what the interview is, if she's promoting her product or if she's talking about business stuff. She's like two different people. She really knows how to market herself. She's made tons of money. That it's so crazy how many different sides to her there are that a lot of people might just like really underestimate her if they don't look into it.
100%.
Well said.
Kind of said it by myself.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's all the Paris content I've consumed.
Oh my gosh.
Do you watch Paris in Love?
Yes.
Oh, guys, do not sleep on this show.
Her reality show is so good.
It's on Peacock
It made me
right
fall
now.
in love with her, I swear.
Fall
Same.
in love.
I was obsessed. Like once I started, and I think Tess started first, I was like, I cannot get enough of it.
I binged the whole thing with my mom.
Okay,
Oh,
we're
so
gonna
in,
do
like, one weekend.
some like
yes.
recapping at the end. We will talk about Paris in Love because I want to hear your thoughts about people in her life. Yeah.
Yes.
We'll get into it.
Uh-huh.
Tess, what are your thoughts about Paris?
I mean,
Or what do you know about her?
I agree with Kristi. I just think she's like an amazing woman. I think when like early 2000s, when I was in middle school and high school, like I was never like a Paris stan. Like I think I was more almost like intimidated by her because she was like the party girl and I didn't really like understand it. And as I've gotten older, I've just grown to like really respect her as like a businesswoman. She's an artist. She's a creative. I think that she just like she challenges people.
She does challenge
And
people.
I think that's amazing. And I think like now I do know a little bit more about like the reasons as to why she has hid behind like a character in her life. And I understand it and like I respect it.
You know what's so interesting too? It's like, why would we not think she would be a brilliant business person? Because of like, look at the family
her
that she comes
family.
from. Like,
she was like born with that.
of course. Yeah, that is in her DNA.
Yeah.
I think it's just like all the 2000s party photos. Everyone was just like, she's ungrateful for what she has. She doesn't know anything. She's just like blowing through money and having fun. And when it's like, it was all like sort of strategic.
100%.
Do you remember the shirt that she wore that said "Stop being poor"?
What?
Oh my God.
I don't remember this one.
It is like,
I feel like she wore a bunch of like iconic phrases.
Definitely.
I mean, it's like what Claire. We were talking about this last night because we were sending each other photos of Paris, and it's like it's so camp. Like
It's so camp.
Of course, like yeah, you could look at that and be like, why would she wear a shirt that says that? That's like very insensitive and out of touch. But it's like she's camp.
She is camp.
Like
That's her
it's
whole
like she could get
brand.
away with that, but it's like no one else could wear a shirt
No,
like that.
No, we're not telling anyone to wear a shirt that says something like that.
And I feel like she would be like, I didn't mean that, you
It's
know?
like different back then, like that.
Oh.
It's like fun back then. That
was
was like
different
it was
back
like
then.
with the times. Like I don't know, just
it was pop culture like gold.
It was.
This time.
It was. Well, let's get into it
I'm
then,
so
shall
excited.
we? Okay, so my citations from the start. So also we have kind of like a family tree that we've created from our citations. So we say Wikipedia is our stepfather because they're like always there, but we can't quite trust them.
Yeah.
So Wikipedia is our stepfather. The Cut, which I haven't used before, chic though.
Very chic.
The Simple Life, obviously, you guys, I bought the season on Amazon. It's $5. It is so worth it. And we will be talking about The Simple Life. Her documentary, This is Paris, on YouTube, and her memoir, Paris, the Memoir. So I do want to give a little bit of a trigger warning at the start too. We will be talking about sexual assaults in this episode, so we completely understand if that is not for you. We'll give a trigger warning before if you want to skip through that section as well. But let's get into it, shall we?
Let's do
Yes.
it.
So
So Paris Whitney Hilton was born on February 17th, 1981.
Whitney.
Whitney, I
I know
know.
that stuck out to me. I was like,
that's her
Whitney.
cousin.
Her cousin's name is Whitney, so I wonder if it's a family name on her.
it's
Kim
gotta
Richards'
be.
daughter's name is Whitney.
Never forget.
Never forget. February 17th, she is a
Aquarius.
Aquarius. And I don't know if you're into astrology at all. Paris Hilton is like, of course, an Aquarius.
Yeah, just like what's she all about?
What's she all about?
The interview I just watched in the car, listening on the way here, she was literally talking about how she's an Aquarius and how it is like everything surrounding like her being a businesswoman.
It's
that
just
makes
like,
so much sense.
well, if we want to go even further, in her book, she said what her big three are. So your big three is your sun, moon, and rising, and it kind of like makes up everything about who you are. So she's an Aquarius sun, she's a Leo moon, and she's a Sagittarius rising.
Perfect.
Which is like, that is Paris Hilton. Like Sagittarius are like, I'm going to do whatever I want and the world's just going to work out around me. Leo's also a fire sign. Like
performer.
She's got everything.
she's got everything.
She's got it all.
Like
she
social,
does.
but
I
shy.
see how she is the way she is.
It's like contradictions that just like make up who she is.
Exactly.
And I love it.
It was written in the stars from the beginning.
Wow.
Written in the stars.
Yes.
Wow.
So she's the first child of Richard Hilton and Kathy Hilton. Oh my God, Kathy.
We'll talk.
We'll talk.
The show did her a
That
number.
could be. I mean, we need to do an episode just on Kathy.
On Kathy Hilton. I mean, the show revealed who Kathy Hilton really is, and I appreciated that.
We needed to see
Yeah.
that. And
We
knew.
did. She's the oldest of 4 children. She has one sister, Nikki Hilton. She has 2 little brothers, Conrad and Baron Hilton. She's the great-granddaughter of Conrad Hilton, who founded the Hilton Hotels. Let's get into the Hilton legacy a little bit.
Yeah.
So her great-grandfather, Conrad, moved to Texas from New Mexico in 1919. He was a banker, which I assume if you're a banker, you're already like kind of rich. It
Especially,
sounds
like,
rich.
that time period.
Yeah.
You got money.
Yeah, so he was buying a bank in Texas at the height of the Texas oil boom.
Oh, he was rich.
Oh, damn it. Texas oil money.
We love that.
Good for Paris.
But then instead, because I guess that bank deal fell through, so he's like, I guess I'll just buy this 40-room hotel in Cisco, Texas. So he does that. The hotel just crushes it. People are like, we've never seen a hotel like this. We love it. He goes on to buy a bunch of hotels in Texas, and then he starts expanding outside of Texas, building the Hilton hotels. Then he starts acquiring other hotels like the Waldorf Astoria in New York.
Chic.
Chic. So he has his Hilton's hotels, he buys the Waldorf, and then in the 50s and 60s, we go worldwide, and he is the first international hotel chain. Which is crazy. He also like raised the standards for like hotel rankings, I guess. People are like, oh, this is actually how hotels should be. In all, Conrad Hilton eventually owned 188 hotels in 38 cities across the U.S., inclity the Plaza. He owned the Plaza at one time.
Damn.
Oh,
Okay.
I love the Plaza.
Oh my God.
So the Plaza, the Waldorf, and then 54 hotels abroad. He later purchased the Carte Blanche credit company, and he has interest in the American Crystal Sugar Company. You know Crystal Sugar?
What?
Find a man who can do it all.
Who can do it all, as well as other enterprises. So this family is rich,
Yeah.
bitch.
Good God.
Yeah.
Like, cannot even. I remember when The Simple Life was first on, and I kind of didn't really know who she was. And I remember asking my mom, like, who is that? And she said that she was a hotel heiress. And I was like, what's an heiress?
Yeah, I was like,
What
how
the
can you
heck
be
does
that
that
rich
even
from
mean?
that?
Yes.
Like, it didn't like compute when I was young.
Well, and then hearing hotels, I was like, hotels? It's like so not glamorous. Oh my God, is it glamorous?
Yeah, like it wasn't until Sweet Life that we're like, okay.
Yeah, see, I was
She has
asking
money.
Cody. Thank
That's
you for
a
taking it
hotel
there,
heiress.
Kristi. Thank you for taking it there. So yeah, and then her dad, Richard Hilton, he was a businessman. He started Hilton Realty, which was an investment to handle commercial real estate. And then he started the real estate firm Hilton in Highland in 1993. Which, if you guys watch Real Housewives of Beverly Hills and then you watch Buying Beverly Hills, did you watch Buying Beverly Hills on Netflix?
Oh, you have to.
I'm so
My
jealous.
my parents are like, you need to watch it.
Oh,
they are obsessed with it.
It's incredible.
it's really
Any show
good.
where they sell big houses, my parents are like, I want to consume that content.
And you get the drama of like Real Housewives of Beverly Hills
Yes.
and Kyle's kids and
Okay.
husband and everything.
And then we get the drama between Rick Hilton and Mauricio Umansky, who
I know
is,
him.
yeah, if you Bravo people, you know, but like there is some family drama here. Oh, we love it. So again, she's rich. So Rick and Kathy met when these are Paris's parents, when Kathy was 15.
Ooh, okay.
oh no.
I think he
no.
was only like 2 years older than her.
Okay.
We're going to be talking about Big Kath in a little bit. That's Kathy Hilton's mom. What? Her spirit is with us. in this room
she's
right
always
now.
with us.
She's the ultimate scary mommy. But I think what she wanted ultimately for her girls and for her grandchildren was wealth and fame. And so I think that Big Kath had Kathy Hilton meet Rick Hilton and was like, bada bing, bada boom.
Yeah, she was setting them
she
up
was
with these men.
strategic.
Oh, for
She
sure.
was.
Well, I think she had like trauma from. I think she definitely like projected a lot of stuff onto her girls, wanting like to protect them, but at the same time wanting them just to have this like lavish life.
100%. So they get married, and Kathy has Paris when she's 19 years old.
So crazy.
Oh,
So
wow.
young.
I
Oh,
didn't
yeah.
know that she was that young.
Me either.
So young. So later on, Conrad and Baron, Paris's little brothers, one is like 10 years younger than her, and then one is 15 years younger than her. But she
Wow.
had Paris and Nikki as a
Yeah.
teenager.
And Kyle
Wow.
had Alexia at 19 too.
Big Kath. I think it's Big Kath's influence.
That
I
she
think
was
she's
like,
His
get him out
family.
young.
get knocked up by
And
these
the-
rich men.
Get rich young.
Get the bag, secure it, babes.
Like,
Exactly.
literally.
And we appreciate that
Yeah, we
because
do.
this empire that Big Kath has ultimately created is,
She got it.
I mean, we're talking
got
about
it.
it.
Yeah, we always are.
We are. So, in Paris's book, she talks about growing up that they would always go to her grandfather's house, which they called Brooklawn in Beverly Hills, and that's where she got married. If you watch Paris in Love, that's that house. It seems like they had a huge family because I think Rick is one of like 5 kids or maybe even 8. I don't know. Right answers mostly. All the cousins are like super tight. And then she said that the parties growing up were truly like fairs. Like there was a petting zoo
I can't
and
even
like
imagine.
a carousel.
It's like the Kardashian birthday parties right now. Like, I'm
Exactly.
just like, what I
they
would
do a
give to
lot.
just attend like one just to see what it was
Fun.
like.
What I loved about Paris in Love too, when they were planning her wedding, they went to that stationery store and Paris is like, I've been coming here since I was a little girl.
So cute.
It's like old money shit.
It
You know,
is.
that you're just like, this is not what
This
I
is
know.
not real
This
life.
is
but
not what I
like it.
know. Yeah. So from a very young age, Paris knew that her family name carried weight. Like they were going to red carpets as a kid and fundraising events and galas. And then all these parties happening at the Waldorf where you're also like, my family owns this hotel. One of her earliest memories is sitting on Andy Warhol's lap. And he was drawing pictures at an after party at the Waldorf. And she said that Andy Warhol always told Kathy, quote, this kid is going to be a huge star.
That's
Kind of
crazy.
creepy. Sorry to bring it there.
But like Andy Warhol was like surrounded
No,
by stars.
That's true. Yeah, that is true.
That's true.
She
Yeah,
had the
for him
Raz.
to say that.
Yeah, no kidding. Her nickname as a kid actually was Star. Like that's what all of her family called her. And then her aunt Kyle Richards, we say on the show it always goes back to Bravo. Like we can always relate back. This is like our easiest subject to go back to Bravo. But Kyle Richards said, quote, I think there was probably too much focus when she was little on how beautiful she was.
Well, yeah, that's never gonna end well. You know.
Yeah.
It can be tough
That's
when you're
hard.
telling a young girl like that's the only thing you're telling her. It's like how beautiful she is.
Yeah.
And Kyle was like not that much older than Paris actually. So Kyle was her aunt, but she grew up kind of feeling more like a cool older sister to her. And in Paris's book, she says, quote, Mom, I had to put this in. She said, quote, Mom, Kim, and Kyle presented a fabulous model for his sisterhood dynamics.
Oh.
Just like, have you seen season 1 of Real Housewives of Beverly Hills? You're an alcoholic.
You're an alcoholic. You're a slut pig.
Yeah.
That's an interesting sisterhood.
The sisters. Like, I just think that's interesting that she said that because I'm like, sure, Jan.
I feel like she's like, as
Yeah.
long as you're close, that means that everything's good.
Yes.
Like, even if
Yeah.
you're fighting or toxic or destructive, like, you know, like I think there's a very warped sense of.
I think
Yeah.
so too. And it's sad because Paris also told the story, speaking of her aunts, that one time she caught her mom reading her diary to her aunts and they were all like laughing about it.
I
and
do
she
remember this.
Yes, and she was reading,
So
Kathy was reading
sad.
it in a like really mockingly way. And I just feel like that's unforgivable.
It would like destroy me.
It destroyed.
I would be like second guessing my own thoughts, not even just like how like my mom felt about me, but
Yes.
I'd be like, am I crazy for what I'm writing down?
Oh my gosh. Well, Tess and I have talked about this before when I still journal regularly, but
Me
like,
too.
but you're always writing of like, maybe someone will be reading this.
Yeah, just like a little bit. I'm just like, okay, maybe not the darkest thought, just in case.
just
You
in
always
case.
have to put in every journal, if I am dead, do not read this.
Yes.
Even as a 33-year-old woman, you have to say it.
You just never know. Paris also talked about when she was growing up that her nanny was her friend or her Aunt Kyle's friend, Bethany Frankel.
Iconic.
Well, Bethany loves to talk about this.
She loves to talk about
course.
everything.
Truly, like, yeah, when I used to nanny for Paris and Nikki.
Yeah.
Just those girls. Maybe you know them.
Can you imagine Bethany Frankel being your nanny?
Not at all.
How
Me
did Bethany
either.
even get that position?
Well, I think she was friends with Kyle.
Oh,
makes sense.
yeah.
And then Kyle was like, my friend's looking
she's
for
like,
a gig.
she's like, work for me.
Yeah, and I also think that Bethany's dad was like in the LA rich scene too.
Bethany doesn't like to say that because she likes to pretend that
That
she
she's
like grew up with
self-made.
nothing.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah,
It's like,
exactly.
what? I don't Nepo baby, that's not me.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
exactly. So Paris was very much a tomboy when she was growing up. She loved animals. She had rats. Tess really
enough.
hates rats.
Enough of this.
Rats, ferrets, monkey, snakes. She once let her snake out of its cage at the Waldorf. She had pet goats. Everyone thought she was going to be a veterinarian when she was growing up. I
Okay.
think she was just like this scrappy little tomboy. In the documentary, Paris said, "My mom always wanted me to be a Hilton, and I just wanted to be Paris." Because while she was a scrappy tomboy, Kathy very much wanted her to be like in etiquette classes and debut her as like a debutante. And she wanted that for both Paris and Nikki.
Well, this is what's going to happen if you do that to your kid. They're going to
Yep.
push back and be like,
100%.
I'm going to go roll around in the mud
Exactly.
and see how you like that.
They're gonna like want to do that even more.
Totally.
Of course, if you don't let your kids just be who they are. And I think it's one thing to want your daughter to be like very private and prim and proper, and then you have the weight of the Hilton name behind you.
Yeah, but Kathy tried too hard.
She tried way too hard.
And it
And
always
she's still
backlashed.
trying.
And she's still trying.
To this day.
And I'm also
trying.
like, you have it with Nikki. Like, you have that
Yes,
daughter that
yeah.
you want.
Let her be.
Yes, let Paris be Paris. It's actually really interesting. In her book, Paris talks about that the baby voice came very early in her life, because I've always kind of thought the baby voice was, which I think this was a reaction of trauma. But she said that the baby voice started because of her struggles with ADHD. That in her, in her etiquette classes, she was taught to be a good girl, which meant being quiet and still and obeying. And she said because of her ADHD, she was incapable of these things. And so she would get in trouble. And she was like, so the way I would get out of being in trouble is to learn to be adorable. And she said, quote, "I had to be cute, precious, and coy. I had to act silly and put on a baby girl voice, which came very naturally to me when I was nervous."
Interesting. I did that when I was little for a certain amount of time. Like, I remember using that to be like, this is going to be
Yeah, I
cute.
feel like everyone has that like
Yeah.
thing that
And
they're
if you're
doing with their
getting,
parents to be like, come on. Like,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't really mean it.
Oh,
Yeah.
totally.
That type of thing.
Yeah, but then you ended at some,
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
some point it has to.
And she's made a
Has to stop.
character out of
She
it, which
really
we will
has.
talk about. She was raised very sheltered and conservative. She was not allowed to date, wear makeup or certain types of clothes, or go to school dances. Like, they were very...
No, that's gonna send me into a spiral. I'm gonna be in the club.
Same. Oh, of course.
Like, I'm gonna be in the club.
At 13.
Give your kids a little bit. Like, if you say
Yeah.
none of that, it's like, start with some mascara so you can just wear that
Yes.
and nothing else. Like, you just, like.
A little
Exactly.
compromise.
Well,
Yeah.
it's interesting you said that, because Paris said, quote, "It's problematic when girls go into that exploratory phase feeling secretive and ill-informed. If the message you send kids is we don't talk about such things, then guess what? Your kids move towards adulthood with the idea that being an adult means keeping secrets," which I think is like such a profound thing to say.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they also put her in Catholic school because she was starting to rebel a little bit. And so she's like, we never like really talked about sex and like what any of that meant as a teenager. And then one time she is in 7th grade, she's going to this school, and there's this handsome teacher that in her book she calls Mr. Abercrombie. This is crazy. This teacher was in charge of every year crowning someone the finest girl.
I can't.
In 7th grade.
In
No.
7th grade.
Also, in any grade, that wouldn't be okay for a teacher to do that.
That is insane.
I'm like, did no teachers be like, what are we doing here? Why do we even have a
There's like a
finest
million
girl?
things wrong with this.
A
Like
million
there's
things
so
wrong.
many
I'm
things.
shook.
Shook. So when Paris is in 7th grade, he crowns her the finest girl.
Yeah, I bet he did. He's like,
Yeah.
go where the money's at.
Yeah.
I don't
Trying
like where
to-
it's going.
And
Got
he
this good side.
literally tells her one day, "I have a crush on you."
No.
Yeah. So then one day he shows up at her house. She climbs out of her window and sneaks out, and she gets into his car. They share a kiss
In the 7th grade?
in the 7th grade.
I
Yep.
can't.
So her parents somehow show up and catch them kissing, and he takes off with her in his car. I guess he like freaked out and like fled.
Oh my gosh.
Yep. So they're driving around, and the whole time this teacher is like, "Oh my God, my life is ruined. Like, I'm
Well,
going to
yeah.
lose my job."
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
You should've
Hope
thought of that.
so.
Exactly. And then he drives back to her house and just like kicks her out of her car. And she reacts to this by being like, "I thought I was special. Why are you now treating me like this?" Because again, she's in 7th grade.
Like,
She
I
doesn't
can't even
see,
imagine.
yeah, how this is so inappropriate.
Yeah, she just sees it then as just
Yeah,
rejection.
she's just like, what did I do?
Yeah.
Probably.
Exactly.
Which
Oh
is
my
so
God.
sad.
So sad. So she goes back up to her room. Her parents burst into the room, and they're furious with her.
Oh my God, get real.
so it begins.
And so it begins. They don't say anything about it to the school, which is also crazy.
This is where they really piss me off.
Same.
In like her whole
They were just thinking about their image or
exactly,
Yeah.
and not seeing that your daughter is the victim in all of
and
this,
also protecting other kids that he is bound to do that
Yeah,
to.
it's like-
exactly.
I don't
Seventh
even
graders.
understand how that's like protecting their image that makes them look so much better.
Right.
Because it obviously got out,
Mhm.
but it makes them look so much better for helping potential other students that
Yeah.
this would happen to. And also, why would you want him to even like potentially interact with her ever again? Because
Exactly.
he's still going to be there tomorrow
Because
at
in
school.
their minds, they see it as Paris did something. They probably were like, she flirted.
Yep.
She made
It's
this
just so
happen. So that if they
disgusting.
said something about it, they would think that she'd get in trouble.
Exactly. And how old are you in 7th grade? Like
Like
12?
12 or 13. I
Yeah,
think
you
turned,
gotta be.
Yeah.
you turned 13?
I think
No,
you
you
might be
turned
12.
Yeah, I think so too.
Because I was 14 going into high school.
Yeah.
Freshman
Yeah.
year of high school. So then it's like 13, 12.
It's so sad when your parents are supposed to be the one protecting you and then that's your response. And she talks about in the book how it took her a very long time to come to terms with the fact that she was the victim in this and that he was a pedophile.
Mhm.
Because I think also when people are in situations like this, you don't want to think of yourself as the victim because
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
it lands with you how serious the situation is for you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just so sad. And then her parents react further with this by punishing her and sending her to live with her grandma, Big Kath, in Palm Springs.
What a punishment. Like anywhere but there.
Yeah.
So scary.
It's like darker than hell.
Like, truly.
At a house in Palm
Oh.
Springs. Which that house was on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills in the early season. It's like the original Palm Springs house.
There's a lot of like fighting over that house.
Yep. So they send her away to Palm Springs to punish her freshman year of high school, which is like such a formative year in girlhood. And then her family moves to New York. So it's not even like we're sending you off. We're also moving across the
It's just
country.
insane.
It's so sad. And she talks about at this point how she was just like picturing her family, having breakfast without her. She's all alone.
It's just so sad.
It is. And she said, she was like, I never took a sip of alcohol. Like, I never did drugs. I do think, like, Paris was a spicy kid. I think she was sneaking out a lot and probably lying about things. But that's also being a teenager. And when you're a parent, like,
Yeah.
this is your child that you need to take care of.
And she's not having one person on her side saying, by the way, this was not your fault.
Yeah.
Right.
I am validating you.
Right.
It's so isolating.
Yeah.
It's so isolating. So Kathy said in the documentary that there was just a change in Paris from 13 years old to 15 years old. And it's like,
I
well,
wonder why.
I wonder
Yeah.
why.
yeah,
And you're not doing anything to
exactly.
help it.
Yeah.
And trigger warning, as we discussed earlier, something really horrific does happen to Paris at this time in her life. She goes into more details about it in her book, but she was sexually assaulted in a really horrific way. She doesn't tell anyone about this, again, because it's like, why would you trust anyone to
Mm-hmm.
tell this trauma to? Because before the
Yeah.
reaction was not good.
Was this someone that she knew?
It was a guy at the mall that he was in his 20s and she's a freshman in high school and her friends and her would go to the mall and they would see these guys at the mall. And one day they asked them to come home with her. So they kind of knew him, but not really. But then at this time, soon after this, Big Kath was actually diagnosed with breast cancer. So later that year, Paris was sent to live with her parents and siblings in New York. So I guess like Big Kath had to go through all of that. And this is where Paris starts getting out onto the scene.
She's in New York City, baby.
She is in the city. She is seeing
City
the
girl
nightlife.
time.
That's right. And against Kathy's wishes, Paris gets into the modeling and fashion scene. So Kathy was like, I just think, which I could see being like the modeling scene isn't great, but
Yeah.
I think it wasn't about that. Kathy saw modeling as like this frivolous thing, I think more of that like Hiltons aren't associated with.
Because,
Yeah.
she would have wanted her to do something to like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm like,
She
if
was
you
like,
make
I
a
want
name
you
for
in
yourself.
elite society.
Exactly.
Yes.
Which Big Kath actually like really wanted Paris to get into like modeling and acting. Just like her 3 daughters. And then Kathy was like, no, we don't like that life. But Big Kath is like, you are going to be a star. And she was. She knew what was coming for her girls. So Paris, again, would start like, she would get into the fashion and modeling scene. Especially, she loved like Betsy Johnson, like the very like loud
Iconic,
fashion. Yes,
colorful.
and exactly.
Yes. Was she already like 6 foot at this point too?
Is she really tall?
She's really tall, right?
She looks like she would be.
She looks like
Or
she's
like
so
5'10"
tall.
or
She
something.
has to be.
Yeah, and she starts walking the runway, and then she started buying like wigs and necklaces that said things like "sexy" and "hot bitch," which I'm like, I want
Love.
one. I want a necklace that says "hot bitch" right now.
Love
So if
it.
anyone could like send me one, that would be great. And she gets a really great fake ID. She starts skipping class regularly and sneaking out to parties. I also feel like in New York, like, did you really even need a great fake
Also,
ID?
does Paris Hilton need a fake ID?
Yeah, I think
Like,
people were already starting to know who she was.
Yeah.
On this period, Kathy remarked, quote, "Let's put it this way. It got very out of control, and I was scared for her, and my husband was very scared for her. And, you know, those nightclubs go on all night." Kathy would actually call every single nightclub in New York and threaten them. Oh my God,
I
that
feel
would
like
be
she was
enough.
scared for herself.
Scared for
She
herself.
was scared for herself.
Totally.
This is not
Not that she should be clubbing, but
Yeah.
I think she was more so scared for herself.
I think so too. So she was threatening them. Paris tried to tell her parents, she was like, I was actually safe when I was clubbing because the paparazzi was around me. And if someone was taking a picture of me, then no one could kidnap
Isn't
me.
that crazy though?
know.
Wow, she feels more safe with the paparazzi
That's really
than the family.
interesting though. I mean, given like all the other stuff that we like just said,
Yeah.
that whenever she would go out, it kind of did seem like she was more safe because like the paparazzi
Totally.
would clock anyone that was near her.
It's so true.
Whereas like before that,
Well, it's also like when you
all
find
this
safety.
terrible stuff was happening.
Yeah, like you find safety in chaos and like strangers. Like that's almost more comforting
Yep.
because like you are
So
so
scary.
scared to be at home like alone with your own thoughts. and-
Totally. The paparazzi was her babysitter, which
Wow.
is a wild thing. And she did say, you know, like she got addicted to the nightlife because in the nightlife she felt like she could finally be who she was and didn't have someone restricting that, you
She
know.
was also like met like a lot more people around her were just like being nice to her or complimenting her, whereas like probably at home
They're
it wasn't
validating
that
her,
way.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's so true. God, that's so
That is so
sad.
sad. Yeah.
And then through this, Paris develops a reputation as a socialite, and she was getting offers to show up in nightclubs as early as 16. People
Wow.
are starting to be like, we want
you?
you, to be at this nightclub.
Wow.
She is like of our generation, like the first socialite, right? Like I can't think of
Yeah.
another socialite of our
I feel like,
generation.
yeah.
Not one as big, you know.
No.
Yeah.
Tinsley Mortimer wishes.
I literally Tinsley just came into my mind.
But that was later.
Yeah, that was later. Kathy actually physically locks Paris in her room at one point.
Oh, once again, like it's just not gonna
It's not
make a
happening.
difference.
It's
Yep.
not
for
happening.
Yep.
What she wants to do.
Yeah, and she said, you know, that Paris was like, I get it. My parents were scared for me. But what's interesting, it's just like what we've been saying. She follows that by saying they didn't want their reputations to be ruined. And then Kathy is like, we spent all this time trying to figure out where to put her and what to do. Like, should we move to the moon? And it's like, well, if your child is clearly, like, if you are a teenager and you're going out and partying like that, clearly there's something going on with your child.
Talk to her.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we shouldn't be living in New
Literally
York
talk to
City.
her.
Ask her, are you good?
Yeah.
What are you feeling? What's going on?
Exactly.
What do you need?
And I feel like most normal parents would be like, I would move to the moon if my child was hurting.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So in the autumn of 1997, Paris fell asleep and around 4:30 in the morning, the bedroom door crashed open and someone tore the covers off of her. A thick hand grabbed her ankle and dragged her off the mattress. So obviously she thinks she's about to be murdered because she's in her
I
own
just can't
home.
even- like,
Oh my
that's
God.
just the scariest thing ever. I'm like scared of
No.
the dark in general. So this would just
Right.
absolutely ruin me. I
especially
would never go to
after-
sleep ever again. Lights on always.
Yes.
After what she's been through too.
Yes, a trauma
I
she's
just
already
can't
been
even
through.
imagine.
Yep. So two men had their hands on her and they cover her mouth because she's screaming. They handcuff her. She's kicking, she's screaming for her parents to help her. And then she sees her, because she's like, I'm being kidnapped. My parents don't know about this.
Yeah.
She sees her parents peeking out through their bedroom door with like tears going down their face, just watching this happen.
It makes me
It would
sick.
destroy me.
Sick. Which I'm also like, if her parents, because we're about to talk about, which I feel like most of our listeners probably know a lot of Paris's story. We're about to get into like these horrible schools that she had to go through. If they see her being dragged out in such a physical manner, don't you think like, wow, this probably isn't a great place for us to be sending our kids to?
I will never understand how there's so many people that think this is a good idea.
Yeah.
Right?
Or that think
For their
that this
kids.
is the only option, the last resort. Like, this is insane.
I
And
know.
I looked up to see like if these things were still around, like this provost specifically, which I'm sure we're about to get into.
Yes, we are.
But the fact that it's still open,
Yeah.
It's still
I can't.
Paris is
open.
like, that's like what she's like putting her life's work is to make sure that these quote schools are
I just-
forever, you know.
I can't believe that
Yeah.
people hear these
Gone.
things and then they still are like, yeah, I'll send my kid there.
Crazy. I think like also just as humans, and we're about to talk about what these schools are like, when you hear that something so horrific is happening, you're like, surely that can't happen anymore, because it's like our minds don't even want to go
I was
there.
shocked it
Yeah.
was still open.
Shocked. And that's someone as high profile as Paris Hilton, not like she has more value than anyone else, but you're like, wow, Paris Hilton can be sent there. We've got to like save these kids that are in there now.
Yep.
So she does get sent to the school. It's like a wilderness camp, I say in quotes, but really what these kids were doing was manual labor all day long. Paris said it was like a boot camp. She strip search in front of everyone when she gets there. Here's some of the rules at this school.
Oh no.
We've got a list. No swearing, singing, humming, throat clearing, dancing, skipping, spinning, touching, hugging, kissing, holding hands, crossing your legs. I've like already in the span, I've broken so many
I know,
rules.
like the throat clearing really makes me
Yes.
nervous because I'm
Yes.
like, oh my God, I've
I
already
would
done that.
do it
Like,
accidentally,
I
just
could
like
never. Shuffling feet, breathing too loud, talking about anything from home, like talking about your friends, talking about your family, talking about sports. Where are we? No looking out the window without permission. No going to the bathroom without permission. Tess, I know that sends you into
That also
bathroom
makes me
panic.
panic.
No opening a door without permission. Like the list goes on.
so they're just
and
really trying to make them
on.
feel like absolute prisoners.
I just don't
Like-
understand how they think like that would make them want to be a great person.
Right. Well, I think they're just trying to break their spirit
trying to break
completely.
their spirit. And they're trying to figure out how to punish them. That's
Yeah.
why it's like you can't breathe. It's like just any reason to be able to punish them.
Exactly. It's just so awful. So Paris, I mean, we know from our past story, like this girl likes to sneak out. She likes to escape places. So she was out, I guess they were doing out in the field doing work, and she whispers to another girl and she's like, let's get out of here
She's
tonight.
like, I'm pretty good at sneaking out.
Yeah. I think I could break
I've
this
done this
place.
before.
Yeah.
So they escape one night, but they get caught, and they bring both Paris and the other girl that was there back to the camp, and they just beat the shit out of them in front of
Oh my
everyone
God.
I can't.
to be made of an example out of. She gets sent to another camp where she also escapes because it's like hell. She escapes from 3 different, quote, emotional growth schools.
Oh, please.
Emotional growth. That's like emotional
just-
death. So Paris is begging her parents to go home. She's like, I'll never go to another nightclub again. I promise. Which also it's like, it's just hard because she's escaping, which I think a normal parent would be like, if they're escaping from this place, they clearly don't
Yeah.
want to be here. And I think Kathy and Rick were like, this is what she does. She sneaks
Yeah,
out.
they just don't trust. There's like no trust.
There's no trust. And also these schools will tell parents like,
Something different.
They're being dramatic.
Yeah, they're not going to be like, we beat her up last night. Like,
yeah, it's insane. So
and
they're
even if they heard that, they probably like, just like the teacher thing, are thinking it's her fault or she deserved
Yep.
it in some way, which is, I just, like a parent mindset. Like, how could you think that way?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
they even like, because they have so much shame around this, they tell everyone that Paris went to a boarding school in London. Like that's where everyone
Of
thinks.
course.
If you're lying about something like that,
You
then obviously you have
know.
shame and know it's not a good idea.
I also would feel abandoned if I were Paris. Like if I disappeared and you didn't like try to like find me, and then someone was just like, oh yeah, Claire went to a boarding school in London, like, and no one asked questions.
Oh my God, she
Yeah.
must feel so lonely. Like it breaks my heart thinking about it.
Same. So then eventually Paris gets sent to Provo Canyon School, which is, if you think that what we said was bad, apparently Provo Canyon is the absolute worst. Like it's even worse, and you can read her memoir for all the details about it. We don't even have the time, really. Like it's
Yeah.
just
It's like a
so
whole
awful. So she's at Provo Canyon School. She endured horrific abuse, including solitary confinement, forced medication, restraint, battery, and strangulation.
Oh my God.
And yeah, it's unbelievable that it still exists
I can't-
today.
I couldn't believe it. I
Strangulation.
really couldn't believe it.
Strangulation, forced medication. Like
Were they trying to like knock them out? You
I think so, and I also think that
She
they.
said it like took, I was watching the part yesterday, specifically in her documentary when she was talking about it, that they gave them medication in the morning and then like again at night. And I think it was just to
Like to wake them up.
make them like
subdue
a
'em.
shell of a person. I
Yeah.
think she said people would just, she said like nothing behind the eyes type of vibe. And then she was trying to like not take the medication for a while.
Yeah.
Which is probably when you like realize, oh, that taking
This isn't
these is
making
messing
feel
me
like
up.
myself.
Yes.
You're a teenager too. Your
They-
body is still, your mind
Yeah.
and your body's still growing.
Yeah.
Like,
They also did weird things. I don't know if she talked about this in documentary or the book, where they would have these like horrific things where they would beat them, but also like cuddle sessions where they would make everyone like cuddle too.
Ew.
And everyone
these
was
like
like,
grown men that are cuddling.
I
That's
think it was the
disgusting.
students like had to cuddle each
Oh.
other. It was something like
Ew.
that. And there was a girl who was like, you just need to like accept it and do it. And also all these people didn't trust each other, so these students would rat each other out.
Yeah, that's what she did say, that they
Yeah.
loved to hold on each other.
Yeah. Because
I
they're
think
just trying to survive.
It's just so gross.
Oh.
Said that like in these schools, it's just like a bunch of people that want to see these kids go through horrible things or be so vulnerable. Like they just get off on that.
Yeah, they get amusement out of it.
Yeah.
Which is sick.
I'm so proud of Paris for like talking about this
Mhm.
because again, like what we said at the beginning, what people's mindset about her is that she's just like the spoiled kid, and it's hard to relive these memories. And
You never know what someone has gone through.
Literally never.
so finally, she gets released from Provo. She attended Provo for 11 months, and also she
That's
said,
a long time. That's so
Oh my
long.
right. She
God.
said also because remember her little brothers are 10 and 15 years younger than her, and so then she was at Provo for like a lot of the time and at these other schools. So when she got back out, they like didn't really know who she was or like how to interact with her. She turned 18 around this time. And also, by the way, her parents still today are like, well, you were out of control. Like, we just didn't have another option.
Mm-hmm.
Kathy
Yeah, like she
Hyde-
says that like the moving to the moon comment, like in the documentary,
Mhm.
like
Yeah, she stands by
she
it.
still thinks like she was validated in doing all of this. She just didn't know
Yes.
the schools were so bad. Or
Yes.
just like
And-
it was never valid.
And Paris in Love, when Kathy doesn't show up, when Paris, because Paris goes to DC, which we will talk about, and like it has a bipartisan bill to stop these schools, and Kathy like won't show up to see her
Yeah.
daughter. Like, what a brave thing your daughter's doing.
Yeah.
And even just like just being where she was, speaking on this, get over yourself.
over yourself.
Get over
Such
yourself.
A deep, like that she cannot connect to. She has such a deep embarrassment and guilt, but
She
like
does.
she will not own it.
And
Yeah,
I
no.
like still would do anything to have a martini with her though.
I know,
like
my
I
God.
just,
I'd be
I
shaking.
mean, it would be a show.
I would be shaking.
I'd be crying in
yeah.
the bathroom, and I'd be like
Quaking.
like just pull together.
She would definitely like say something that would wreck my self confidence.
Immediately starts it off with an insult.
Yeah,
And
she-
then
she'd be
she's
like,
like,
"Is
and
that-"
what are we drinking?
Yeah.
She'd be like, that's what you're wearing to lunch?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I like need it for some reason. And so
You love a cold woman.
I love a cold woman. It is true. It's something about me, and I'll dissect that later in therapy. But for now, so Paris is out of Provo, and it's the early 2000s, baby.
Here we go.
Here we
This
go.
is the time.
It's the time, especially in LA.
Yeah.
So she actually never finishes high school. She just gets right back into the scene. She can do what she wants, and she does move to LA in 1999. So now at this time, the paparazzi have digital cameras. They have videos where they're able to walk and talk. And so it's like, it's a whole new era of
Things
paparazzi.
are different.
Things are different. And after being in Provo, Paris actually loves this. She's like, I felt beautiful.
I bet.
Yeah, she was like, I was in isolation. She, also in Provo, I don't think you were allowed to look in the mirror. That was also a thing.
Okay.
So she can do her hair and makeup now. She feels beautiful and she's getting attention.
Well, yeah, she's having all these crowds of people.
I would eat
running
it up. I'd be
after her.
outside. I'd never go home.
Yeah,
I would never
being
go
like, you're
home.
beautiful, you're amazing. Whereas in Provo, they're telling her the opposite.
Yeah, and again, it's like all that validation is coming from strangers, whereas your family is telling you the opposite too. God,
Yeah.
it's just like how
Just
she is
slippery slope.
surviving now
It
is
is.
Yeah.
It's like
crazy.
but you like understand why she was out.
Yeah, and she seems so optimistic still and sweet.
Well,
you know?
yes,
like
she's
that's
like,
what's so like.
She still does. And she said, quote, I was just a teenager having fun without apology and without inhibition. That made fun people want to hang out with me. And when I showed up to a party with a crew of models, actors, and socialites, the paparazzi always followed. event planners really wanted me. Like, I think she was genuinely enjoying herself.
Good.
She
I mean, she
was.
deserved it.
She deserved it. No kidding. So at this time, Nikki is kind of getting in the scene. Paris and Nikki do a shoot for Vanity Fair that was shot by David LaChapelle. Do you recognize that name, Tess?
Do you do Jessica?
He did Britney. He did the Rolling Stones cover with Britney in the
Wow.
teenage room.
Oh, the stuffed animal.
Yes.
Iconic,
my
guys.
God.
God, it is iconic and troubling. But
Troubling.
like he must
Wow.
have been like the photographer of the early 2000s.
They were on the
That's
cover of Vanity
crazy.
Fair.
So they at first were just doing a photo shoot with him, and they were running all over LA. They go back to Brooklawn, and which is her grandparents' house, and her grandparents didn't know that they were doing a shoot there. I think it might have probably just been David LaChapelle and Nikki in Paris. They're in the bathroom. They're like throwing up the middle finger and all this stuff. And then all of a sudden, Vanity Fair calls them, and they're like, "We really want to do this. We want to put you on the cover and do this whole photo shoot." And I guess Kathy was like, "Absolutely not. You cannot have these pictures, especially of Paris like throwing up the middle finger at Brooklawn." And then I guess he was like, "We'll do a whole story on them or Kathy's conditions were if you do a whole story, then you can use their
I
pictures."
mean, that's fair. Like,
yeah, I
yeah.
agree.
But
That's
also,
a good
like,
move.
Kathy, you're so boring.
You're so boring.
Just like, God, calm down.
It's so true. And David LaChapelle said on Paris at this time, quote, "Paris had a charisma back then that you couldn't take your eyes off of. She would giggle and laugh and be effervescent and take up a room." Which
that's our girl.
that's our
Yeah,
girl.
She's so
She's still
cute.
got it.
They
Never could
is.
take it away from her.
No, wow.
And thank God.
Thank
I
God.
know.
And this is when she starts to monetize on it too. She's like, "You want me to party? Prove it."
Getting paid to party,
Getting
honey.
paid to party.
life.
And she didn't even realize it at the time, but she's turning herself into a startup.
Yeah.
She's literally just made a business from herself.
Yes.
Just herself.
Before Kim K, before anyone else did it.
Yeah.
She was like she was the OG.
She really was. She taught Kim how to do it.
Kim was cleaning
It's
her
true.
closet at this time.
Yeah.
Which we will get to. So by 2001, Paris Hilton had become one of the biggest stars on and off the catwalk. So she is in the zeitgeist. But in 2003 is when Paris becomes a true household name and an international star because of a little show called This Simple Life. And we're going to take a quick break here, but we will be right back. Okay, we are back. Time to talk Simple Life, which I've been so excited to chat about.
Same.
So, Simple Life started because a WME agent, Mark Itkin, called the Real World creators with an idea. An unscripted show inspired by the 1960s rags to riches Green Acres. Did you guys ever watch that show? Oh my God. Well, why would you? Because it's like, for some reason, I watched it as a kid a lot. It was on TV Land.
TV Land.
I see this for you.
Yeah, but actually, you know, it's funny because have you ever heard of Zsa Zsa Gabor?
Yeah.
So Zsa Zsa Gabor was one of the leads on that show, and Zsa Zsa Gabor was also married to Paris's either grandfather or great-grandfather.
Oh,
So it all kind of ties
Everyone's
together.
connected.
Everyone is connected. At the same time, a casting exec at Fox met with 22-year-old Paris about a potential television opportunity. And so he's like, "I'm meeting with Paris Hilton for a show." And they're like, "We want to do this Green Acres like show. Let's combine forces."
Smart.
From this, the concept of The Simple Life was born. And so if you guys, because we have some listeners that were not even alive when The Simple Life was on. That was a tough sentence to get out. If you guys have not watched it, please go watch it on Amazon right now. But the concept of the show is that two heiresses would spend several weeks living among an all-American family without credit cards, cell phones, or stylists and working odd jobs. Initially, the show was supposed to be Paris and Nikki, her sister. Yeah.
Oh.
And Paris,
Interesting.
yeah, which can you imagine?
No. It's like
cannot.
haunting to me to
No,
think of.
Nikki
Yeah.
would not do well. Well, Paris signed on immediately, and Nikki was like, "That's so embarrassing. Like, I would never do this." And Paris like, "It's funny."
Yeah, she's really like serious,
She
isn't
is.
she?
Well, Nikki said, "I don't want to be funny. I want to be classy."
Yeah, well.
Of course.
So Simple Life is definitely
Hey,
not for you, babe.
You can be both.
Yeah, hey,
Yeah.
that's
Ladies?
true.
Yeah.
We could be all things. So Nikki's out, but they were like, "Okay, who else should we fill in with this?" And Paris is like, "I know just the person."
Truly just the gal.
Truly. Paris suggested her childhood friend, Nicole Richie, who is the daughter of Lionel Richie. And like also, I feel like with our Gen Z listeners, the older sister of Sophia Richie is like how you could refer to her
True.
now.
That is so crazy.
Isn't it crazy?
Wild.
I feel like Sophia Richie, would you just consider her an influencer now? Or
I
do you say
mean,
like a model and
kind of, yeah.
influencer?
I just feel like I don't know that much about what else she does outside of just what I see on social media. But I
think
know
she's an
social media is
influencer.
not
Yeah.
like her job, but
What is her
But
job?
it's like where she's most known.
Right.
Which I feel like makes her an influencer.
Same. I would say she's like a socialite influencer.
I think
yeah,
so.
yeah.
Ugh, what a life.
Gorgeous.
What
Gorgeous
a
woman.
life. So they bring Nicole in for an interview and they record her in Paris and they were just like talking about high school and reminiscing and they record it and they were like, that's magic. We have to cast her. So it was. So actually before they started filming though, Nicole had to go to rehab before they started shooting.
Yes.
So
Yes.
yeah. So at one point, Tess, they were like, maybe this isn't going to work with Nicole, so we might need a recast. At which point, Kathy suggested her sister Kyle Richards. And so they actually go and interview future Real Housewives of Beverly Hills star Kyle Richards to go on The Simple Life with Paris.
What a weird combo. Kyle would have been so like,
Oh
I'm
my-
sorry, I
can't
love
even
Kyle, but she would have
imagine
been so
this.
annoying.
You guys, Kyle is in the first episode of
be
The
like,
Simple
"Ew,
Life.
I don't
yeah,
wanna
just like
do
trying to be
that."
funny, but not
Oh,
funny.
she would have been. I'm
One season.
Oh, yeah.
Done.
Done.
Well, they said that Kyle told her in the end she wasn't interested in leaving her kids for weeks at a time, which I like at first I was like, sure, Jan. But then I was like, actually, Kyle loved her kids so much.
Think
I
of when
could see
Portia
that.
was like a baby. She was like, she wouldn't let them go to sleepovers.
Well, I don't think Portia was born 2002
yeah.
or 2003, or was she born? No.
No, I think Portia was born like 2007 or 8.
Oh my God. It's just like,
But yeah, she like she's so attached to her kids.
yeah.
Like,
So she wouldn't leave. But like, just imagine a world where The Simple Life was Paris and Kyle
I don't
Richards.
know if I want
Can't
to.
even picture it.
I just don't
Me
know.
either. But anyways, like rehab didn't hold them back. And they began filming. The show eventually lands filming it with the Lettings family in Altus, Arkansas, which I didn't realize that Altus is an hour away from my hometown.
Love.
They have a population of 800.
Wow.
Yeah, which I think it's even, I looked it up, it's like actually 600 now.
Like we are
So-
declining slowly but surely.
But the family is so sweet. And like, this is where Paris and Nicole start making their public persona and like carving out these characters. And actually, I feel like it's been revealed now that like those were actually characters.
Yes, I was watching the documentary, and when she had the girls from Provo over to her house, she was like, we watched The Simple Life, and we were like, you know how to use a mop.
Well, isn't
Which
that
is crazy.
such an interesting
Interesting.
It's
point?
so good. They were like, we had to clean all day long. We knew you knew exactly what to do, and you were acting like
Oh,
you didn't.
wow.
Which is crazy because, like, the first time I was ever really, seeing her was in that sense of
Right.
she doesn't even know how to, like, clean at all. She's
To do
so
anything.
privileged.
She
all
didn't
this
know what
stuff.
Walmart was.
Which is, it's just wild that they thought to not be, like, fully themselves. And that they were
Themselves.
putting on a
It's
character.
like it's a protection.
Well, it is
Yeah.
comedy gold, though.
It
Like,
is.
it
It
worked.
was.
And they told Paris, they're like, you're going to be the dumb blonde character, and Nicole, you're going to be like the wild child.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And go. And it's like, it's scripted in a way of like, obviously they knew they were going to do a terrible job at these
Yeah.
jobs, but
Yeah.
like they didn't tell them what to say. And like, this is when That's Hot like really starts coming on
God.
to, and like, sun,
Nicole
sun,
is
sun.
so funny.
Nicole is so funny.
They were just the one-liners.
I just watched an episode where Nicole is making out with this random 18-year-old in Arkansas, and she's like, "You're a hot bitch." Starts making out.
I
with
can't.
him.
I can't.
Oh, Braxton, you're so hot right
so
now.
hot right now.
It's
Chick says that
just-
to like a 6-year-old.
It's so 3.
Was that the one where she put on like the nursing bra? There was an episode of Simple Life where she's like pretends to breastfeed, but she's wearing one of those bras that you could put milk into.
Oh my
and
God.
I just remember it so vividly. That's like one of my favorite episodes because I was just like,
It's like
what?
You'll never
Like,
forget.
what is even going on?
It's so funny. Like, it's such a great content. And also that family is actually like so sweet.
Yeah, they are very sweet.
All the families they had were so nice.
So nice. Yeah. So this show actually goes on to be multiple seasons. It is just, they struck gold. It's like 13 million people watched the premiere on December 2nd, 2003.
insane.
13 million
Wow.
people.
2003.
2003. Yeah, it's crazy. So it's massive. Actually, I wanted to point out, if you do watch the first season of The Simple Life, Paris does go into baby voices, but she actually uses her real voice a lot
yeah, I
more
remember
than you
that.
think. Which I remember when she resurfaced hearing her real voice for the first time because she really leans into the baby voice, and it is shocking.
It is shocking. It's such a different
when
octave.
she goes in and out of it too in an interview. It's like,
oh, I love it. That
I know.
I
TikTok
love it too.
sound.
The TikTok sound when you see your female coworkers and a man shows up, like, you're beautiful and you are a star. And
It's so good. But you know what's interesting? And I love that none of us brought this up. When you think about Paris Hilton, you know what came out right before Simple Life premiered?
it's her sex tape.
I don't. Paris Hilton's sex tape, One Night in Paris.
I don't
So
think
back
about
here
it
for
at
me. I
all.
never
Right?
I just feel like she is the farthest
Yeah.
farthest thing like away from that tape.
Right?
That it's crazy because it like feels like it still lingers in Kim's life, but with
Yes.
Paris, I feel like there's people that are like, what are you talking about?
Exactly.
That's so true.
And so One Night in Paris was the sex tape. I think it was actually the first celebrity sex tape to come out after Pamela Anderson. Like, I feel like Pamela Anderson's was definitely the first celebrity sex tape.
Yeah.
Both Pamela Anderson, well, all of them have come out without their permission.
Yeah.
So what happened in 2004, right before the premiere, Paris and Nicole were doing press everywhere because it's about to premiere. They're traveling the world. They were in Australia doing press. Paris gets a call and they're like, there's a 30-second clip going around the internet of you having sex. And they're claiming that there's a longer version of this tape. Can you imagine getting that call? So the story behind the sex tape is Paris's ex-boyfriend, Rick Solomon, which she refers to in her book as scum, which I think that we should just refer to
Let's
like
just
that.
continue to say scum, yeah.
Scum. Leaked their sex tape that was made in 2000, 3 years earlier. She was 19 years old when this tape was made. She was a literal teenager.
I can't. I think it's like, thank God we're at a point where if that were to happen today, everyone would be like, you're scum.
Yeah,
But
you
like
are.
back then, everyone was looking at her
Like,
and
you're a
shaming
slut.
her. Yeah.
Right.
And they probably were praising him too. Like, you did that. Like,
Exactly.
heck yeah. Whereas like now it would be disgusting.
Disgusting.
And everyone would be in agreement on that.
Did she know that she was being recorded, or was that?
So she says that
She said
she
didn't
doesn't
remember.
She doesn't remember much about that night because she was drinking and took Quaaludes because she didn't want to make the tape because she told him, like, he kept asking her, like, make a sex tape with me, make a sex tape. And she was like,
honey.
I don't want to. And then he would say, like, it's something that he did with other women.
Ugh.
And then he
Try
said,
to get her to be like, wait, I should do it
yep,
too. Oh.
she
that's so
said,
gross.
quote, he told me if I wouldn't do it, he could easily find someone who would. And that was the worst thing I
Go
could think
find
of.
them.
Yep.
No, please.
To be dumped by the grown man because I was a stupid kid who didn't know how to play grown-up
It's
games.
so sad. How old was he? Do we know?
He was older, I think,
'cause I'm
for
like,
sure.
If she's 19, it's like so sad that like he probably was this older guy and she was just like, well,
I
Yep.
want to, impress
like,
him, and
I
Yes.
don't want to like make him upset or like
Yes.
lose him. Like,
She said the truth is I wanted to
God.
be alive in a sensual way. I wanted to feel like a woman who's comfortable in her own skin.
which, like, God, we've all done something like that, you know,
Of
when like you're
course.
young and you're like, okay, I guess if he wants me to do this, and then that has
Yeah.
to be publicly shown, you know.
Oh,
and
it's just so
horrible.
awful. So she begs him not to release the tapes, but Scum said that he had every right to sell something that belonged to him, and also it was going to have a lot of financial value.
disgusting.
every right is crazy.
Yep.
I think I was watching something that said like revenge porn was not a thing back then, so it wasn't
Yeah.
even like illegal.
I just saw a clip of Kamala Harris, I think from like 2019, and she's been fighting to like against this revenge porn thing. And she's like, even the term revenge porn needs to be not said because
Changed.
Yep.
revenge, it makes it seem like that the woman did
Yeah.
something to deserve that.
Totally.
And
Yeah.
then porn is an act that you are creating together. Like this is
Yeah, I
something
feel
that's like public,
like everything associated with that word is
taboo.
just
Yeah, the roots are very sexist and icky of that.
Yes.
Like, of what that means.
Yeah.
Exactly. And she talks about like how difficult it was because of her trauma to find her own sexuality and how it is still now for her as a grown adult woman because it's been taken from her and it's been a joke in the media for so long. Like something that is the most private thing in someone's life and then it's made public and then made to be a joke.
Her sexuality has been taken from her in every aspect of her whole
Yeah.
girlhood and womanhood.
Yep.
Like, it's so upsetting.
she's just like never been able to even just be
to feel safe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. The tape was made when she was still a teenager and released and monetized against her will. That's like also this
That's
other
really
thing.
interesting.
Because then they own it.
Yeah.
It's like not her property. It's whoever then gets
Her body. People
Yeah.
are making
That was
money
the
off
thing with
of
Pamela
it.
Anderson. They owned
Yep.
it. She had no.
Yeah.
And then public outrage, scorn, and disgust came down on Paris instead of the man who released it and the creeps who bought it.
I mean, I remember this in middle school when this happened, and the conversation around it was very much like, she made a sex tape. Like, that's kind of like, like it was like
Like she's a
judging
slut.
her. Yeah,
Yeah.
slut shaming, which was so
Yes.
big in the early 2000s.
Yeah. I think there's so much around that where people are like, you shouldn't take a video or a photo. Like, of course it's going to get out there. Well, you did it. But it's like,
Yep.
no.
Yep.
Like, we should also be holding it accountable that someone was effed up enough to release that. Like,
Right.
that should be where most of the shame is, that someone's not trustworthy.
Well,
Yep.
that's like the thing about the language around porn. Like, this is something that is made in private and that you are sending just to one person that you're expecting to keep private.
Yeah.
You know, it's not porn.
Right. And
Yeah.
like, we also judge like women that are sexual. There's no way for a
Yeah.
woman to be sexual or to like to have sex or to be horny or any of that
Yeah, it's like,
without.
it's just so, it makes people uncomfortable
Yes.
or something.
And so that just like embodies all of that.
Another isolating experience for her.
Yes.
Like,
No
I
kidding.
can't.
Oh my god! I want this
Horrible.
woman to find joy.
Me too.
I think she's finally there.
Yeah,
She's
I
like,
think
we're
so
almost
too.
there.
I think so too. We're getting there, guys. So she goes into hiding for a couple weeks, but she knows that she can't do that forever. Her family's consensus was that lawsuits would only bring it more attention. Like, we know how this family operates. It's like, we don't talk about hard things because if we don't
already
talk
out
about
there.
it, right? If we don't talk about it, then it never happened. Like, that's how Kathy is.
That's disgusting because they have the money for this. Like, it'd be
Yes.
one
Yeah.
thing if they were like, we can't put in.
Take him down and show
hundreds,
everybody
thousands
what
of
happens
dollars.
when you do these things. If
Yep.
you leak something,
They have
you're
all the
going to be shut
resources.
down.
Yep. So they didn't fight it. They just
disgusting.
let it be. But she does actually, the way that she makes her appearance again is an SNL skit with Jimmy Fallon, which
I
like
didn't realize that was the first time that she was.
that's like how she reappeared. And they like made a joke about the whole thing, which I'm like, I don't know if I could have done that.
That's a lot.
It's a lot. And like, good for her for being able to do that. I wonder like if she were in this room and like if we could really be honest with her, be like, did that feel liberating for you or did that feel humiliating for you?
And like, did you have to do that?
Yeah.
Like, were you pressured to
'Cause
do it?
the whole skit, it's on YouTube, is like him being like, so is there like a back entrance to the Hilton hotels and stuff? And they're doing like, you know, like sexual is that the word? Innuendos?
innuendos.
Yeah, referring to it.
I would maybe guess that that's not very
I mean, I wouldn't love that. But
empowering.
Yeah, I don't know.
but I guess, you know, she might say, if I'm laughing at myself, then you can't laugh at me. You know what I'm saying?
I hope
Yeah.
that she had like a part of making that joke, you know.
I hope so too. I mean, she
Or
crushes it.
Hopefully they were like, do you even want to go there?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then they were like, and then she was
How
like,
far
yeah,
can we go?
sure.
Yeah.
And then they like threw them out there.
I mean, she is a
hopefully.
comedy queen,
Yeah,
like,
she is.
and
Yeah.
she did
Timing is
crush
good.
it. Okay, I do want to talk about this though. Do you know the rumors about why Nicole and Paris
I
had a
was
falling
just
out?
about to bring this up about the SNL like screening that she had.
Yes,
Wait, I don't
go,
know.
Kristi.
This
You do, I think.
Crazy.
Kristi, go off.
What happened?
I heard that the night that Paris was on SNL, that there had been some murmurs of Nicole being kind of jealous that Paris was getting all this attention just like by herself, like she was hosting SNL by herself and stuff. And so she was going to have a screening of Paris on SNL, but instead she played her sex tape.
To a group of people.
Yeah, like allegedly she played the sex tape and they all laughed and giggled about her tape instead of watching her on SNL.
Oh my god.
And that this was the reason why they were like not friends anymore, and that there was some drama about doing further seasons of Simple Life.
I mean, no kidding. I
How do
never
you
want to
recover from that?
ever
Like,
talk to Nicole
what
again.
the heck?
Do you think that's true? That she really did that? Has she ever spoken
I
on
mean,
it?
I will say that the timeline of like them not doing it after, like, or like them having to change how they were gonna do Simple Life, something definitely happened between them.
I mean, wouldn't put it past Nicole. She has mean girl
crazy.
energy.
Well, yeah, even on
You don't
Simple
wanna
Life,
cross
she
her.
says
That was
some
some
things that are mean.
petty the house.
I think she really had some like deep insecurities that she took out on Paris.
I think so too. And Paris
Yeah.
said, what Paris has said is like, Nicole knows what she did.
And I think there were like
That's what she's
there
publicly
had
said.
been-
I know.
Yes,
cold
yeah,
in
there was
here.
like that interview, and it did make it seem like there was something that was almost unforgivable
Yeah.
that
That is
had occurred.
unforgivable.
Yes.
Your best friend that's showing the most like fucked up thing that's ever happened.
I'm like, I say
Crazy.
almost because like I guess they're good.
I guess they're
She
forgivable,
has
yeah.
forgiven her
I
now to a
know,
degree,
how
but
do you
like
ever forgive such a
I would
thing?
never. I will say that in like here like having the conversation right now though of like all the things in the past, because after I heard that and like I was like on my way here I was like, how could she ever talk to her again, ever speak to her again? But I'm like, there's so many like horrible people in her life,
That's a
and they're
great
her
point.
family that she's had to like
Yeah, she still speaks to her mom.
forgive
Yeah,
other
no
people,
kidding.
that I'm like, oh, no wonder she spoke to Nicole
Wow,
again.
you're so
Yeah.
right. She's just, I think she's a forgiving person because
Yeah.
so much bad stuff has happened to her.
That
You
is
kind
so
of are just like,
sad.
well, that's
Which is
life.
crazy. I'm like, even if time has passed and like she did that to me when we were like early 20s, like teenagers, I would never. I could never.
Disgusting.
Yeah, and I don't know either of these two
Wow.
personally, obviously, would love to. But I do think that
Alice?
Nicole has put in the work in her life,
I
and I
think so,
think she's
too.
evolved a lot as a
Yeah.
person,
And I think she would say
too.
that she has, and like,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so, too. But despite all of
Crazy.
this, I know,
Crazy.
Paris comes out on top, as she always does.
Yeah.
She releases an album on August 22nd, 2006 called Paris. The album reached number 6 on Billboard 200, sold over 600,000 copies worldwide. The lead single is Stars Are Blind. Even though the stars are
So
blind.
good. So good.
It's iconic. Like,
Ugh.
I think I had that as a ringtone at one point.
I love
amazing.
that.
I wish I could bring back songs as ringtones.
I know. Can you?
I think you can.
You can?
I
I'm
think
getting
you
on
can.
that today.
Same. What song?
Yeah.
That's a great question. I'm like, what song would my song be?
I'd want something to be like childhood nostalgia.
Yes.
Something
Like a Hillary Duff
fun.
song, maybe.
Oh, I mean, I might even do Stars Are Blind
You
right
do
now.
it for your birthday.
Yeah.
I love a Hillary Duff moment.
You know,
of
like a
course,
little
Hillary Duff.
wake
Yeah.
up.
Someone had
perhaps?
like a Kim Possible like text tone.
Oh,
I
that's
love
fun.
that. Oh, my
that's
God, the
cute.
nostalgia of this
Right?
episode.
No, it's killing
Ugh.
me.
So she does more TV shows, or she does TV shows and movies. I remember that horror movie that she did. It was like Wax or something.
House of Wax with Chad
House of Wax.
McNamara.
Yes.
Where they allegedly had an affair.
Oh, I'm sure.
What?
And he cheated on Sophia Bush with Paris Hilton, allegedly.
In her book, she talks about the evolution of technology. And then once she's on Twitter, she realized that once she talks about products, the products sell out. So people start sending her so much
Easy.
free shit. So she hires her friend, Kim Kardashian, to come organize her closet. And Kim gets on eBay and starts selling things for Paris.
eBay.
Kim on eBay, just visualizing that is very
Oh my
satisfying.
God.
You know what? I would trust Kimberly to organize my closet,
Oh, she's
though.
so type
Like,
A. She's so smart.
Oh yeah.
I think there was no better person for the job. And then
No.
they start walking around and doing paparazzi together, too.
It's just crazy to think
I
about.
know.
It is like, wow, I love seeing scenes on the Kardashians or on Paris in Love with the Kardashians and Paris and the Hiltons together. And there's always like some uneasiness where they don't really know how to talk to each other anymore,
Yeah,
but they're
there's
like,
tension.
people would love this.
Yes.
You know?
No, there's like competitiveness.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Around this time, the Paris, Brittany, and Lindsay famous paparazzi photo happened.
So iconic.
And then this was like definitely an era of the DUI photos from celebrities. So
Everyone was
Yeah.
fucked up driving.
everyone
Sunglasses on.
Yeah.
Lindsay Lohan has so many DUI photos.
Yeah, she does.
Yeah. Well, Paris gets hers in 2006 on September 7th, 2006. She was arrested by the LAPD and charged with driving under the influence with a blood alcohol content of 0.08, which I think
Isn't that
actually
only like 3 drinks?
I don't know what's
I think she was like arrested, and I don't think that 0.08 is, but I think she was arrested at like right at the legal limit or something like
What is
that.
the legal limit? I thought the legal
Isn't it
limit was
7?
0 point.
It might
I don't know.
be.
I don't know. I
Something
don't know.
like that, which I'm like, can you
she
get
probably
arrested?
had like one drink too many.
Well, or like maybe
Or-
a margarita. She's just so small.
I mean, I guess it depends on what you've had to eat.
That's so true.
how
Well, I
much you
think she
weigh.
did say she was like, I didn't eat anything today, and I had a margarita or something like
Sweetheart,
that. But
always
it's
have
like,
always have a
you
base.
gotta have
also-
a little drink, a little food with a
you
little
gotta have
drink.
a base.
also, it's like so unacceptable it's unacceptable for anyone to get a DUI, but especially celebrities.
That have
Yeah.
all the money to have a driver.
It's ridiculous.
And I feel like nowadays that's like one of the things where it's like it's a way bigger deal now. Like people take it way
Yes.
more seriously. Like the Justin Timberlake thing.
Oh my
Oh,
God!
I know.
Well, like as if I needed another reason. to,
He's
like,
our enemy on
Yeah.
the show. We
Rightfully
don't like.
so. Rightfully so.
we
Yeah.
don't love. I mean, we've done an episode on Britney, and we did an episode of the early 2000s talking about the Super Bowl. Like he just
And we've done an NSYNC episode.
Oh, yeah, we
And
have.
everything just goes back to we don't like him.
time and time again, he
Yeah.
has just disappointed us. We just go on an hour about Justin Timberlake.
Still around.
Still around.
Sure is.
At this time, a 2006 poll conducted by the Associated Press and AOL, LOLs,
Oh,
Wow.
RIP,
official.
concluded that Hilton was this official. She was the second worst celebrity role model behind Britney Spears.
Oh, fuck off. They
Which
always
I agree.
They like to say that about
fucking
women.
Sad.
Men are doing the same shit.
Yes, and like, did Paris
And
Hilton
worse.
And
And
worse.
And did Paris Hilton ever set out to be a role model?
No.
That's not her job.
I think that's so sad. Like they like with all the context. Obviously, at the time, like no one had the context, but it's just like that's so fucked up.
It
so
is.
fucked up. And like, why are we even doing these polls?
All of these athletes
Yeah,
and male
what?
pop
Yeah.
stars that are like cheating on their wives,
Yes.
doing drugs.
Also, like, celebrities should not be our
Also,
moral
just let
compass.
them no.
Yeah, right. Even though, like, God, I'm obsessed.
Yeah.
Like, that's
No,
why
yeah,
we're
We
here.
will do whatever Taylor
It's-
Swift does.
Don't
Oh.
get me started, you guys. I love her.
Oh,
We have
we
a
love
Swiftie
her.
in the
Yeah,
house. I'm
we
shocked that
love
we
her.
haven't. There's always a lyric that pops out
I know.
somewhere.
We're just
but
so deep in a different world.
truly.
No,
We
I
hard to
was like
find.
before I came, I was watching your Jake Shane episode, and I was mostly because I was like, I need to like see like what if are they Swifties? Like what's the vibe?
Of
And I was like,
course.
this one is gonna tell me if they
'Cause
are. And I
yes,
was
That was
like, I know
the day
he's gonna
after
bring it up.
Torture Poets was released.
Oh,
so we
yes.
were like on.
We
Yeah,
were
because he had
in
said
it.
like I hadn't listened to it by myself, and I was like, okay, it must have just come out. It
Yes.
must have
Oh,
just
no,
come
yeah.
out.
We were in
I
it.
had listened the
Yes,
night
I am
before.
obsessed. I am a
and
freak.
cried.
We're still in it.
I am, dear Tess, I love you. Thank you for the live streams.
Oh.
I am tuned in.
Yes.
Watching,
Love.
watching, needing every second.
Of course.
We love it. Then going with Kim, Paris and Kim go to Ibiza or Ibiza.
Ibiza.
I
I like to party in Ibiza.
I feel so pretentious being like Ibiza and embarrassed, but like they went to Ibiza.
Yeah, say it.
And this is where Paris falls in love with DJing. She sees it.
I love that she
It just
loves
makes
it.
sense. I mean,
Yep.
Ibiza is the place.
She's
Yes.
like, how can I get paid to party for the rest of my life? So eventually she gets into DJing, and now she is getting paid up to $1 million a night
Crazy.
to DJ.
Go off, queen.
When
off.
Olivia Rodrigo hired Paris for her Grammy, like her first Grammys after party,
That-
like
oh my
to celebrate
God, I
her
didn't know
Grammys,
that.
she had Paris DJ, and I thought it was the most iconic thing.
Oh, wow, like women
ever.
supporting, like she's like, you paid
Yes.
like the pass.
She did. I
that.
love that.
Yeah.
Oh my God, what a dream to get
I
Paris
know. I
Hilton
was
to
like,
DJ your
Oh,
party.
she's just like
God.
acknowledging that she's an icon, and also like I'm sure
Oh,
Paris is
I
like,
wish she could
yes!
DJ oh, my wedding.
Same.
Could you imagine?
I'm like, does anyone know any? If you can get that,
Any
Yeah,
Yes, please.
is our Paris? Are you listening
a little
now?
discount.
Yeah, please. A discount on $1 million. Hey, maybe who knows what will happen to
Oh
this
my
podcast
goodness.
between then?
Yeah,
Who
we can
knows?
bring-
Yes.
But speaking of rich stuff, between 2008 and 2009, Paris's house was is it burgled? Burgled?
Burglarized.
Burglarized. Impossible
So hard
word to say.
Yeah.
But the bling ring got her.
That's
Iconic
crazy.
also.
Yes, iconic. If you guys didn't know, the bling ring was a
I
group
do
of
remember,
kids
but I
in
was
LA.
like, I always forget the list of the houses.
Yes.
that they
It's
hit.
Rachel Bilson, Paris Hilton.
Rachel Bilson is
Rachel
so
Bilson.
random.
I know. Isn't Audrina Patridge from the
Yep.
Hills? I think her house got
Wow.
into it.
and a couple guys that I'm forgetting.
Yeah. Okay. So she was the group's first and main celebrity target, with the majority of the stolen property belonging to her. They reportedly broke into her house 7 times. Yeah, and it wasn't until nearly $2 million worth of jewelry, clothing,
one trip
cash, and
wasn't
other
enough.
items, right,
Wow.
were stolen that she made a report.
That's what happens when you get greedy.
Well,
Oh my God. Yeah.
Like,
Did
what
she not
the
have
heck?
security? No, probably not
I
this time.
probably not at this time. But also, if you guys watch Paris in Love, she has like storage units of stuff that she just has so
It's
much
crazy.
stuff.
So does Kim. It's like a warehouse.
it's like
a
for all her
Costco.
old stuff.
It's
What
crazy.
do you do with that?
So I guess like
I
you wouldn't
know.
notice unless $2 million
Yeah.
worth were stolen if you have that much stuff. But what I love is that she allowed Sofia Coppola to shoot some scenes for the bling ring at her house.
That's so
I
exciting.
love
Sisterhood.
that sisterhood.
Love it.
And then like I feel like in the 2010s, Paris gets a little quiet in America. Like she's going over to Europe and she's DJing a lot, but she like kind of disappeared. She actually went to jail for a couple, like 23 days or something like that, because I think she was driving with her headlights off,
Oh.
It's something, I mean, this is like the most half-assed research at the end. I'd be like, I think this is where
jail for something.
Yeah, this is where we say go do your research.
Yeah.
And I think,
You guys
or
know
do
where
your
to go.
homework. And then I think after jail, she like went over to Europe and was DJing for a while. But she is still making bank because she made over $2 billion in gross revenue
Crazy.
from 17 fragrances. I think her, like, it's Europe and Asia. Her fragrances are huge.
She's
Which is
huge in
wild.
Asia.
She's huge.
Love her.
Like,
They
yeah.
love her.
We love her.
What's not
I
to
love
love? She makes her reappearance, which is just so crazy because it feels like she's everywhere still
Yeah.
right now.
I feel like there was like a blip of time where I'm like, you know, she's not as popping, and then it is when like the Kardashians have like
Yes.
taken that gap and like filled
Yes.
it, but she's like more back than ever, I feel.
I completely agree.
Totally.
Completely
I love
agree.
it.
Because there was
Yeah.
a time where it's like, oh yeah, she was just very early 2000s and that's it. And what really brings her back into culture is her 2020 documentary, This is Paris. It received over 16 million views in the first month of its release. And this is also where she really did like rebrand herself in a way, because
Yeah.
before she was just like the early 2000s party girl. And then we learned about her past and like what
she
an
was
amazing
really opening up about that, and then I feel like is when people started to realize like she didn't do that voice.
because apparently when they started doing the documentary, they were going to come from this place of like boss babe. And then she started talking about some experiences and the director was like, would you please open up more about
Yeah.
that? And then that's what the
Wow.
documentary
What a
turned
beautiful
into.
journey for
No
her.
Yeah, even for them to like, you know, put that out there or like to acknowledge that. It might have even been one of the first times that someone has ever been like, no, you should tell
should
that
talk.
story.
Yes. Like I'm curious too to hear about your life. Like not just
Yeah.
like this image. Like I want to get to
Yes.
know you.
And it's interesting that you say like this is the first time we heard her without her baby voice, because in the opening of the documentary she says, quote, I'll just try to be normal. Sorry, I'm so used to playing a character that it's hard for me to be normal. When cameras are around, I always turn into someone else.
Oh, it makes me so sad.
It makes me so sad.
Same. But she does like come back out stronger than ever. She does so many brand deals. She has a cookware line with Walmart. She launched several NFT lines.
Hot.
Yeah. She is political. She has continues to meet with a bipartisan group of lawmakers to advocate for a newly introduced bill to regulate troubled teen facilities, quote, troubled teen facilities, meant for young people struggling with behavioral issues and substance abuse. The bill would create federal data collection and reporting standards for the troubled teen industry and provide states with the best practices to prevent abuse.
I just don't know how anyone would be against that.
Right?
Well, you'd be surprised.
I
Yeah.
know.
People in this
I know.
country.
But like,
Well,
thank
especially
God.
like where some of those are, like in Utah.
No, I know.
Yes, it's so true.
I know.
But I love that clip where she's like, legislation is hot.
It is hot.
It is hot.
It's hot to speak your mind. And
Let
to
'em
get
know. Let
shit
the girls
done.
know.
Yes,
No.
let the girlies know. Her net worth, this is without her family wealth, because her grandfather, Baron Hilton, reshaped his will in 2007, redirecting 97% of his $4.5 billion fortune to charity rather than his family.
Amazing.
Amazing. So it's drastically...
Yeah, like they don't need it.
Yes, they don't.
They're all
It
good on
is.
Kind
their
of surprising.
own.
That's really nice.
Well,
That's
even with
crazy.
97% of his $4.5 billion fortune, they still have $135 million to be shared among them. But there's so many family members, like $135 million goes quick. So like this is Paris Hilton's net worth without her family money is reportedly
that's
300
really-
million
God.
without her family's money.
I feel like more people need to know that.
That is
I
crazy.
agree.
I feel like whenever they
Really?
see her, they're probably like, "Oh, she's just living on her family."
That's
No.
like
No,
Taylor
it's all
Swift's-
her. It is all
that's like
her.
Taylor Swift money.
Yes,
Yeah.
and that is all her hard work.
That's
And she's talked
incredible.
about that in the documentary and in Paris in Love. She's like, I'm addicted to work and like I want to be.
I mean, she really is.
She is, and she's like, I want my wealth to be my own and not my family's. Yeah, it is pretty incredible that 97.
That's really.
300 million.
Yeah, 300
her
million.
products and-
I
Mhm.
mean,
She's an
she
entrepreneur.
really made a brand
Yeah,
from
she
herself, her
did.
name, and knew how to go about it and do it and keep it up. too.
Yes.
Yes.
And she
Which is, like, the
continues to do
hardest
that.
thing.
Yeah.
Momentum.
Yes.
Mhm.
She married her husband Carter Ream, and they have that show Paris in Love. She has 2 kids, a son Phoenix, and a daughter London that she had via surrogate. What do you think about Carter?
I will say I was very unsure. I was super skeptical about him before I was watching this show, mostly because she'd been engaged a couple of times.
Oh my
and
God.
I just like didn't really know how to feel about her in relationships, if she even really wanted that,
Right.
or if she maybe was wanting this like fantasy and like just didn't want to go through with getting married. And then I was just skeptical of maybe his intentions or who he was. But in watching the show, I was like, okay, I think I like him.
He is an odd duck.
He is very odd.
He's a strange man.
But
I think
Paris
he
is
kind of
strange.
lets her be herself.
Yes.
And that I liked.
Yeah, they're both strange people. So, you know.
They are strange people.
In the best way, in the most loving way.
I have
Yes.
two things I want to say. First, do you remember her engagement to that guy that it looked like they reenacted the engagement? I think it's the guy that
When they're in the
the
skis.
snow.
The snow
Yeah.
one.
That was the strangest video
That was very
I've ever
haunting.
I didn't
seen.
really get the best vibes from him.
I know, and I think is that who she's engaged to in her documentary?
The guy who did
think-
like support her DJing.
I
who's
think
always
that's
way
what it
I
better.
was.
think maybe.
Yeah,
I
I think so too. And then the second thing is, did you know that Carter has a kid?
I always forget about this.
Okay, well, we're just gonna see. Remember, I said my opinion on
Yeah,
him was just based on the reality
Yes.
show, guys.
Yes.
And obviously, they're gonna
Right.
paint him in a good light there. Okay,
I know. So I don't really know that much more about it, but like just do your homework and look it up on
That is
there.
crazy.
But I really hope that
I don't like that.
I know. I really
Yeah.
hope that I think what we're all saying we don't like that is because it's not brought up once on the show.
Yeah, I don't love it when guys just don't acknowledge that they have other kids.
They're
Yes.
a father.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or that they're a father, because I was just saying this was his first child ever.
I know.
Yeah.
There's no
Right.
mentions on the show because
It is really weird.
a whole
is
season
weird.
is them having a baby together, and you would think
know.
like, you know, they're experiencing it for the first time,
I know.
Yep.
and that's certainly how it comes across.
Yep.
I know. So I
Don't
hope
love that.
Paris that you are taken care of, and if you're ever not, we will write it down for you.
We got
Yeah,
you.
what?
Let us know
We
what
got
you
you.
need.
Yeah, you call us.
Oh.
But that is Paris Hilton.
Well done,
Crazy.
Claire.
Yes, seriously.
What
I
a
mean,
treat.
She is a treat. Any
Wow.
like closing thoughts? Any thoughts about Paris and love, Kristi? Your experience as being a pop culture expert with Paris.
I mean, I think she's just such a fascinating topic because she goes across like so many different like eras in pop culture that it's like so many things that have happened, like the reaction would be so different today.
Yeah.
And that's just like the craziest part to think about, like the
Yeah.
sex tape, and if that were to come out today, like the reaction would be different. And I don't know how she's done it, but I
Same.
can admire it. I can sit back and really admire that.
Same.
Amen.
Well said.
Well said.
Tess, any thoughts?
I just think it's like such a great lesson of like not trying to put women in boxes of
Yes.
like stereotypes. I think a lot of people looked at her as this dumb blonde. You never know what anyone has gone
Mhm.
through. You never know how smart someone is, and also like the masks that you wear to try to protect yourself. And like
Yeah.
I think a lot of women in Hollywood, like we talk so much about pop stars on this show and, you know, women that were having to protect themselves and what that
Mhm.
looks like. So just like don't judge anyone until you
Yeah.
know the backstory.
Totally.
A total lesson of not judging anyone.
Ugh,
Yeah.
would love to have her on the show. I would love to, like, honestly, smoke a joint with her. And I wonder if she, like, smokes.
I
at
feel
all?
like
I
think
she
she does.
would.
I would
She
love
gives
that.
vibe.
I think she
Yeah.
doesn't drink that much, but she does smoke. I
I
think Carter
agree.
smokes a lot too.
I agree.
Yeah.
So, Kristi, we ask our guests all this, or we ask every guest the same question. If you could smoke a joint with anyone in history, dead or alive, who would it be?
It's just like such a good question. I feel like there's just like so many, you know, like when you're like put on the spot, you're like, oh my
Ugh.
God, like who,
No, that's
who's
okay.
even coming across? I feel like right now maybe like Casey Musgraves.
You just made Claire.
You are in the right
She
room,
sings about
babe.
it. I feel like she's
Of-
like, and
oh.
to be a country artist and
Great
to be
answer.
singing about that, really rare. Okay.
I knew I
Um,
liked you. I'm like, we all just like fit so well
like
together.
I just know it'd be a fun time.
Oh my God, can I
sure.
join?
Yes.
Okay, great. Tess, you're
I would
coming
also
along
like to
too,
join.
obviously. Oh my God.
I know it'd be a good time.
Wow.
Well, Kristi, where can our listeners find you?
I am on social media as Sesh, mostly YouTube and TikTok. TikTok is more fun.
TikTok is a good
YouTube
time.
is the main. It's like It's giving more serious. We're talking about things very professionally, but TikTok is like silly, goofy. We're talking about what I just saw on the internet and
she can do
reacting
it all.
to it.
We
So,
love that. We're going to put all of your stuff in the show notes.
Yes.
So make sure to follow Kristi there.
Yes, and follow us at Right Answers Mostly on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all the tings. And we love you guys so much. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
This was so fun.
It was so fun.
This was such a treat. We'll see you guys next week.
Yes, goodbye.